all the presentations. And thank you everybody for joining back here. Welcome to the North America Roundtable, the last one of the, we're in the 23rd hour, 24th hour, I guess. So this is great. It's been so interesting. I think the idea was to use this time quickly for the different, we have 3 organizations here in North America that helped put this program together. So I think Carlos wanted us to introduce each one of them. And then we had a few talking points that we wanted to just like share and use this time also to maybe go back to some questions that we didn't get to answer earlier during the presentation. So appreciate all the speakers to come back here, and yeah, just gonna open the floor. But I think Angie and Ray, maybe just either one of you want to start presenting A&WMA, and then Troy, I'm not sure, let me see if he's on, with IEEE, and then I'll have a few words for the REF committee. So,
all right, Angie just joined, so I'll let Angie pick up the narrative for A&WMA. She did such a great job at describing it last time. I'll let her her repeat that.
Okay. I think a lot of you know what Air and Waste Management Association is, but basically it's a nonprofit, nonpartisan group. As far as odor conferences go in North America, I feel like typically it's been WEF's Odor and Air Pollutants Conference. It's every other year, typically. And then Air and Waste Management had done them for a while and then didn't for a while. And then we just had one for the first time in a long time in Toronto last spring. And it was very successful. We had 130 people registered from multiple countries. And so it was a really good event. And with WEF not doing an odor and air pollutants odor conference in the near future, we're kind of collaborating a bit on this Air and Waste Management Conference that we're planning in Minneapolis on May 12th through 14, 2026. It's at the Radisson Blu Mall of America. So if you're familiar with Minnesota and the mall, that's like kind of a cool place to be. And we're really looking forward to that conference. It can be more than one track. We're kind of just waiting to see what abstracts we receive. The call for abstracts is open through Friday, and then we're going to meet next week to decide whether we extend that or not. So please get your abstract submissions in so we can consider those. Leading up to the conference, we'll do a pre-conference webinar that Gary Hunt's leading with TRC. And I think that's on, is it odor sampling methods, Ray? Do you remember?
Sampling and testing methods, yeah.
Yep. And then I think Mike McGinley, you're helping coordinate a conference tour potentially for people when they're here.
Yep, preliminary, tentative, but we're working something out with the Metropolitan Council, which is the Twin Cities Sewer District, to see facility odor control in their new odor lab. But new facility, but they've been running an odor lab for almost 40 years.
Yeah, so I think that covers it for air and waste management. So we definitely are hoping to see a lot of you there, and reach out to me if you have any questions or want more information.
yeah, thank you, Angie. Troy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome.
There you are.
Yes, I'm the chair, the outgoing chair of the IEEE Sensors Council Standards Committee. We have a new officers coming in next in January, 2-year terms. But we were very happy to be part of this session and have some papers describing our odor monitoring standards that we've been series that we've been starting. We're also a co-sponsor of the ISOEN conference, the symposium on electronic nose, and it's ISO International Symposium on Olfaction and the Electronic Nose. That's the one that's going to be in China coming up next year. And so hopefully you can come and participate in that meeting, and we'll see you there.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm the current chair of the WEF Air Quality and Odor Control community. And I've been a member of this community for like over 20 years, I think. And I just love having this group come together because it feels like a class reunion every time we all get together and see each other. But we're always looking for new members, especially younger members. So come and join us because we're really active. And I think it's been a real pleasure getting to know some of these other organizations because we're so tight here within WEF, but getting to know you, Angie, and the group from A&WMA, and now Troy, and everyone across the world, you know, just to see that all the other continents have their own communities that like are all like working on projects that are similar to ours, and we can learn so much from each other. I think it's been wonderful to have this event and bringing everyone together. It's such a small group of experts in the world, and now we all got a little closer and know each other. So this is great. So at WEF, our air quality and odor control community, what we're doing, so we're there, the technical arm for WEF, basically reviewing papers for the annual WEF Tech conference and selecting those. Like Angie was saying, we used to have an specialty odor conference every 2 years that has been put on hold this year, but we're lucky to be able to partner here with A&WMA, and hopefully together we can put on an even bigger conference. So really looking forward to that. Please do get your abstracts in. The more the merrier, the better the program. So, and we've had a lot of really good speakers here. So it'd be great to see some of you over there too. What else do we do? We have WEF has like a WEFcast platform where they record webinars. We get one for odor control every year. So we did that earlier this year in July, and the webcasts are available on WEF's website. So that's great. I think we had over 350 people join. It's a great opportunity to reach more people. And really all the other activities are really like driven by our volunteers and interests within the community. So for example, the study that we did several years ago that Scott presented on early this morning, really looking at the cost of odor control and the cost of being a good neighbor, evaluating that on a per capita basis was really interesting. Many of our members, we're also working on a workshop in a box right now that we would like to be able to, it's a one-day seminar that we can take around the country and really present at different state associations and their conferences as just to share the knowledge that's like otherwise kept so tightly in our communities, really bring that out to the world and to our other members of WEF. And then a lot of our members have written this book, the MOP 25 book, so which is also available. It's a really great resource on odor emissions and control. So whoever does not have it, it's available on the WEF website. And yeah, so that's a lot of the good talent coming together in this community. We're always looking for more members. So please contact us and join us. And with that, do we have any questions for any of these associations? Any additions? Anything we forgot? Great.
Yeah, I just want to say I've been really impressed by the information that's come in about sensors, ambient methodologies, procedures. I would love to get a group of people together for a panel discussion on those techniques. Quite often with particularly in the wastewater side and some of the other sides, we're mainly after H2S, we're mainly after headworks or collection systems, and it's kind of cookbook. But there's certainly a lot of things out there where odors are much more complex than that. And being exposed to some of those advanced methodologies, advanced analytical methods, instruments, procedures, we really should be talking about that more. And I look forward to reaching out to those that spoke today on those topics and doing something around that. I think that needs to get out to the community more broadly.
Hey, Ray, along those lines, that's one of the foundations of the IWA Odor and Specialty group is they use a lot of academics to further that along, as you probably know, and that's how it first was started as odor analytical and approaches for that and the type of compounds and the community impacts and trying to figure out how to measure that so you could show compliance with an odor standard. So it is under a lot of the IWA purview when they have their conferences.
That's a good point.
Great.
And where's that conference again? The next one, Jay?
I think it's in Malaysia. Does somebody else know? It's in Malaysia, and it's I think it's next year.
Yeah.
I don't have. Sorry about that. Carlos would know.
Carlos knows everything.
Has a lot of bringing in 30 minutes.
The last one we had was in Hobart. It was combined with the Australians. This one is straight Malaysian in the university. I'm pretty sure they're working out the details, and I was thinking it's going to happen in 2026.
There he is. Good
Here
morning.
we go. Just call his name and he appears.
Sorry, no, I was around. I've been around all the time, and it was wonderful listening to you guys and you speakers. You did an amazing job. Moderators did an incredible job for free. So many hours, and as of the next IWA conference, I'm not that sure that it will be in Malaysia. They are talking about that, but there is the option actually, and this is something that they have to discuss. I don't know how it will go, to have this IWA meeting together with the Air and Waste Management Association and with maybe informally or something like this. I don't know how this could be done because IWA has some special requirements that maybe would not fit very well with the Air and Waste Management Association. But at the end of the day, it's a great event that is being organized by this group, and would be fantastic to have it there. But at this stage, it's still in Malaysia, and we will see how it goes. We will have more news hopefully in a couple of weeks. Michael Asal from Australia, he's the one in charge, and he's speaking with the people there. And I'm not sure. In trueness, it should be the next conference should be in the usually it's changing from continent to continent. So it was actually last time it was in Australia, before it was in Asia. So now it was the goal of America, either South or North America. That was the goal, because the last time it was in North America was in San Francisco, the one that Jay organized. So it's a long time that since that last conference, and it would be wonderful if we could do this, if that could work out, but still we don't know. The people in Malaysia is still they are having some troubles. I still don't know which ones. Sorry.
All right. You'll keep us updated.
Yeah, but definitely we all have to go to that amazing conference that the Ingie and Ray are organizing with all their heart, and with the help of Inken, who is also pushing a lot. It's amazing. So we have to go to that one. This is for sure. This is marked in my calendar in red, and of course I'll try my best to be there.
Yeah, May 12th to 14th, Minneapolis. Put it on your calendar, everyone. Cool. Well, we have panel members here. We did have some talking points we wanted to touch on, but I'm wondering if we may want to, if anybody has questions left from some of the previous sessions that we should address, since we have some of the speakers here.
Well, I might have a general observation from what I saw, and I think a lot of times we underestimate the psychological impacts of odors, and then how small of an amount of an odor can really cause an individual to have issues and problems, and that we go straight to the analyticals and we try and figure out, well, what is the exact compound that's doing that? And a lot of times we forget about looping the participants or the community back into the development of your solution. And, what I kind of heard is people complain because the odors are getting worse over time, or they had a bad event, biosolid spill, or a burp of a pump station. And then the third one, which we don't really hit a lot on, is in that community, often people are working at that particular facility or wastewater treatment plant, and so they're immune to the odors. And what happens is a neighbor comes in or a relative comes in and says, "Why? How could you live in this stink?" And so they're pushed both ways. Well, I had to be here because I've worked here, but I probably should have better standards of living, but I want to be a squeaky wheel. So just thinking about that when you look at all your odor control assessments and plans is how do you re-loop that community and really figure out what the driver is causing that odor complaint to occur. And I have tons of stories of, I have the vampire couple that are up all night and they complain at 3 in.the morning about an odor and no one else smells it. But then you have to address that because they're a squeaky wheel to the mayor or whatever. So there's just so many different stories, but you have to figure out how you loop your analyticals, your characterizations, and how deep you want to get re-engagement with the community. So that's just an observation I saw.
Yeah, I agree. That's I agree because there's so many different drivers, just physical drivers, corrosion is a big driver. I feel here in the US more so than I've heard in other areas. But definitely citizens are more involved and have more public channels to complain, with the social media, and the relationships are changing too. Like communities are more educated, and have there's a push for environmental justice and have decreasing health concerns. So yeah, I agree. It's really a lot of it, I think, is around outreach and just being human and talking to people and telling them they're being heard. And actually, that's a great segue. Maybe we can introduce Mark Holstead. I invited him on this panel because he recently wrote a really great paper in the WEMT exactly about that, on complaints, right? And how complaints maybe shouldn't be seen as a nuisance, but as an opportunity for a municipality to connect with the neighbors. So Mark, maybe do you want to just
Sure, thank you.
talk about it?
So this will be a utility perspective. We do track complaints, of course. We get about 250 a year. The vast majority of our complaints are, as it resolves out, is in the private system. Now, as a service, and because no person is going to believe that, oh, I manage a wastewater collection system. I should have said that. And in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Nobody's going to believe that, that it's in their system. And so what we do is we work with them. We ask them some questions. We have, I would say that sewer workers in the collection system are more connected to their customers than perhaps other parts of the authority. Certainly people on a wastewater plant, they're inside the fence. They don't worry about it, but we're engaged. And so we'll ask questions and try to learn. And then what we typically find out is that about 3/4 of the private connection, private system problems are wax rings in the bathroom at the toilet. And so we put smoke in there, we blow it, we turn out the lights, we shine a light on it, and we show it to the customer. And so the customer has proof positive. Some of them are harder. A lot of them are like dry P-traps. So that's kind of the practical aspect of it. And so that's the first thing to recognize, that is, although we do have some significant odor problems, the first thing is that most of the complaints we get are having to do with the private system and not ours. Now, so we help them. So from there, we sometimes get in a loop sometimes where our customers will call up what we call dispatch, the phone line, to complain, and we will send out a combination cleaner crew probably within an hour, just to go out there. And again, my people are very good. They talk to them. And they tend to satisfy them, sometimes incorrectly, because sometimes it is our problem, but by flushing it and doing it and good customer service, they're pretty satisfied. So now we do have a hotline, and that's how I like to get the ones that are our problems. Now, I've got 49 years of odor complaints, and what I found out, and this is not a cliche, it's a statement that the customer is always right. What they are experiencing is the truth. And I have probably in my section over $100,000 worth of equipment, mainly odor logs and Jerome meters and things like that. We are equipped, the authority, we care about odors, we've got equipment. My customers give me better information, and I have been wrong, and my customer has been wrong, and everybody that works for me. So what I'm saying is that, and we've tested this out different ways. When you get a complaint from a customer, they're not complaining because they like it or because they're psychotic. And I can guarantee you that in the decades I've been here, I've heard that. This person just likes to complain, and that's not true. None of us do. In fact, there was a book, it was by my co-author, Manny Teodoro, and his co-authors, which is called The Profits of Distrust. Now, it focused on the drinking water side and how privatized companies can gain market share by spreading distrust in the public utility. Now, but it also talked a lot about complaints and how complaints can either be handled incorrectly, which decreases the public's trust, which decreases your funding and gets you in a bad loop, or you can have a situation where you react properly and you gain the trust, because the public actually will fund improvements that they understand. Okay, and so what I want to say, what a thrust of this book turned out to be, and it applies to mine, is that when somebody complains, they're showing two things. They have determined two things. One is that that person that they're complaining to is capable of fixing what they need fixed. Otherwise, why would you complain to somebody who's incompetent? Okay. Number two, they are complaining to a person that has the moral decency to care about their problem. Otherwise, why would you complain? So it is not make-believe to say to a customer, thank you for trusting me. It is a sign of trust and confidence in you. And there's a last thing, it's called cost of voice. It's the idea that it takes effort every time you complain. If somebody's complaining, one of the questions I have is, why doesn't everybody complain? Well, because they don't trust you. That's why they don't complain. And maybe the reason you're not getting very many complaints is they don't think you're competent or you have the morality to care about them. Okay. So it's not a question of why didn't everybody else in the neighborhood complain. It's really the question. The answer is because that's the only person that trusts you. And you can say thank you to them and you can listen to them and you will get good information listening to them. That's kind of the message. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Well, I think just to build on that a little bit is if you don't have the financial power to answer them, you lose all credibility.
Yep.
So you probably had neighbors or you sent your foreman out there and say, oh, yeah, we're doing this and this. And all they get is, yeah, you hear me, you're very sympathetic, but you don't have the financial whereabouts to fix this. And a lot of times the communities don't understand your investment. You spent $100,000 on equipment to help them. Do they understand that you have these tools ready and you're able to go forward and have the person that controls the budget in that same room talking to you? So a lot of that has to be played in when you have that kind of credibility gap and you need to rebuild it, is to demonstrate what you've done and you have the financial means to support solutions as you move forward.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the utilities here in the US were quite happy flying under the radar for many years. They didn't want to be public. They didn't want to be watched with what they were doing. And I think that era is coming to an end. That people are becoming more educated and they want to know what their public utilities do, what their fees are being used for. So I think there's there's more feedback now, and there need to be more conversations. And as they complain more and they understand, they get feedback from the municipalities and understand how much they are investing and what they are doing to like solve these problems. But it's not that easy. I think the more appreciation will be there and the more understanding in the long term. But it's a process, right? And hopefully the more funding will be available too, the more public it is, the more, you know, the boards will be pressed to commit some funding for these problems.
Hey, Mark, thanks a lot for that. I mean, I've always looked at odor complaints as a report card, you know, report card from the community. How are we doing? You know, they're giving you, they're grading you on your effectiveness in what you do, and it's the owner's then responsibility to report back and to take that into account, and then to finally do something about it, and so that they can. So that report card then becomes an action item to improve credibility with the community as well. I've always looked at communities and say that utilities look at, they smell with their eyes. Perception is reality, and if I can smell it, it must be killing me. And so the community always three aspects that and the utilities juggling these balls of, you know, they smell my eye, smell with their eyes and whatever. And so we have to deal with these things, and how we deal with them is a challenge, but it's got to start with an outreach program. You got to have direct communication with your community in order for everything to work well and work right.
Yeah. Another observation I saw too is, I was glad to see this, is we're moving away from one compound causing the odor problem and looking at the compounds as an onion. Each layer has a different treatment approach. Each layer has a different odor impact, and each layer has a different odor. And I was happy to see that a lot of the authors were addressing the various pollutants and odorants that cause problems, especially in the sewer system, because predominantly for the years that's been focused on H2S and ammonia only. But as we saw in some of the papers, there's other contaminants in there, mercaptans and other amines and all that type of thing. But we need to keep that in our mind as we go forward. And it kind of brings to this observation is it total odor that we need to worry about to reduce, or is it a compound by compound specific that we need to remove? I'd be curious to hear what people think.
One of the things about communication, feeding off the communication line with the community and back and forth, is the crowdsourcing tools and the number of things that provide feedback other than just the standard call up your utility and make a formal complaint. There's a Map My City or Smell My City, and there's Clarity, which is two tools that come to Louisville, Kentucky. And we need to improve the quality of the language. I think it'd be like a community person speaking one language and a utility person speaking another. We need to bridge that language gap. Sometimes it's the difference between a person who's reacting emotionally and an engineer who's responding from a technical standpoint. You know, what do you mean it smells? My clarifier is meeting my turbidity goals, so it can't be me. But it also is, does those tools correctly ask and use the language that odor practitioners can understand, and vice versa? I think as we build those tools, as we use those tools, as we apply those tools, we need to make sure that we get the information we need. As odor professionals, we know about FIDO, frequency, intensity, duration. Are they giving us that information? Is it giving us a way that we can interpret the result and act on it? And to Jay's point, it's strength. Okay, that's total odor, but then character will tell us the compound. So getting that information in a way that isn't biased, doesn't use techniques that are prejudicial to one source or another is important.
Yeah, Ray, really good point. I mean, being present in those places, whether it's Smell My City or next door apps, or all those places where people share this kind of information amongst themselves and with the utility is important. And then making the effort to translate the language that the utility or a practitioner may be receiving from a layperson into something that is meaningful and actionable on the technical side is important. And then to relate it back in a way that's understandable. All that gets back to what Mark was talking about, which was building trust with the constituents. And when you have that trust, that they have faith in us as practitioners and utilities or industrial or whoever the odor potential source is, the better and more efficient our response is, and ultimately gets to the main objective, which is improving quality of life for those constituents.
Susan has a question.
Yes. Yeah, I have two comments. One is that I think something that hasn't been addressed is lack of control, because it could be a lovely bakery smell that is coming, but you have no control over when it's going to hit. And I think that depending on culture and depending on the person, that lack of control is really an important issue. The second is because I'm chairing this IEEE committee on trying to have standards for landfills, is the issue of the pattern of compounds on the landfill versus the pattern of compounds in the community. And how are we going to go about determining where something is coming from? Where I've always done it is to take the compounds on the landfill, take those in the community, and then just do combination of analysis to find out what the probability is that those compounds came from that point, from that particular source. But the problem will be with the separation, like the hydrogen sulfide is heavier than air and it's going to separate out from other compounds. How are we going to go about determining the pattern on the landfill versus the pattern in the community? I think that's what the thing that kept coming into my mind as I listened to different people talking about the separation of compounds as they get transported downwind. So I think that's going to be a big challenge.
I think there's movement in that area, though, as we saw the presentation about PTRMS and SIFT-MS, that both of those technologies, kind of sibling technologies, are being built into vans. And I truly believe in not long, that's probably going to start to become in the right project, right? Big project, lots of problems that may become a routine part of a project, and able to do that real-time analysis downwind and chase a plume and other things that I think I've always, a lot of times we're chasing H2S and ammonia because we can measure it quickly. And I think this should help kind of increase that number of compounds. I also appreciate what you said about the control. I always try to throw in a plug to people of Peter Sandman, who had a risk communication books that are out there, and I've always really thought they're super helpful, because it does talk to those things about when things are unknowing, they're more scary. When you have less control, they're more scary, and how that plays into communicating risk, but it's also in evaluating outrage is his word he uses. So I always give a plug to his books. Have been around for a long time, but yeah, I really appreciated those.
Well, in that sense, what do you guys think of all the new sensor technology that's out there and smart odor management with AI possibly predicting some of it? What do you think that's the future?
Yes, I think it's the future, but I think the problem is that it's not sensitive enough.
Right.
I mean, the problem is that metal oxide sensors are widely tuned, and can you detect hydrogen sulfide? I mean, to be honest with you, 10 years ago, I could detect it at about 2 ppt. Okay, so
yeah, I think you have
where's the
interferences and the sensitivity levels.
The sensitivity levels.
And they also have counter interferences with each other, so you get false positives and false negatives. And that leads to that concept of that odor profile method. I think, Mike, you know a lot about it, but it's really sorting through on the citizen side of the description of it. It smells like puke, or it smells like cedar wood. But each of those smells have a specific chemical attached to them so that you could see whether or not you can measure them in your off gases as you go out. But it's getting more towards we're controlling odors versus individual compounds. And that's what I was trying to get a thought about, is we have to keep total odor in mind, but we also always just focus on the main bad actors.
And Dr. Suffet has always presented about that in some of the bigger treatment plants that have done a lot of odor control, that then his approach has been to come in and say, what is the character of the smell downwind? Because maybe it's not the strongest source. Maybe it's a weaker source that persists, and I think he's right on that. And, that comes into, the term in sensory's lexicon. What are the words? What are the descriptors?
Mm-hmm.
What are the community's words versus the professional's words? How do you link them together to be looking into that? And that's where I do think if the chemical analysis keeps improving the way it is on a track to, I think there's benefits there.
I think IMS seems to be the most promising here, rather than metal oxide sensors. Or
there's been a lot of early warning systems. I think at Toronto,
Mhm.
they had a corridor and they had H2S sensors. And so I'd love to see that improved, but mostly they've been improving it on the food side, right? For testing quality of products. Does it smell like a strawberry? Yes. And what level? So they can figure out how they adjust their batch of strawberry cookies. So, but until it really gets focused on the level of detection that we need for our citizens, it's going to be a nice tool to have if you have a strong odorant. But I don't know in the trace concentrations that we see, because at Orange County Sanitation District, we got rid of all the major odor complaints, and they were still getting complaints, and it was a fishy smell. And it was a leftover fishy smell that was left over of one of those non-dominant odorants that was causing complaints. Now, do you spend the money to fix that fishy smell, or do you say, well, sorry, we spent millions and millions of dollars to take care of most of the odor complaints, so it went from X down to 0.1, and now you're that 0.1. How far further do I go to keep you pleased? So I don't know.
I mean, I think another problem is that the fact that hydrogen sulfide can stay in the air for 18 hours or more, and then you don't know where it came from.
Yeah. And like when you're landfill, when you directly measure it, the sulfide reacts in the sample bags, and then you see a reduction in that. So you never really have a link between the lab, odor lab, which has to do the samples in 24 hours, and what you're actually measuring out at site. So you have the counter reactants in the measurement approach as well.
Yeah, but what I mean, we send samples to Mike McGinley, so but I mean, he sees.
Mike's fault.
No, he sees what it is, but a lot of times.
He went to school with my daughter, so if he picks up, let's say, hydrogen sulfide and ammonia, and you have two sources of hydrogen sulfide, one, there's no ammonia coming from it, and he's picking it up with hydrogen sulfide and ammonia, then you've got a good idea where it's coming from. So that's where the human aspect is really important.
Yeah, it's a concentration level
Mm-hmm.
that gets you sometimes. And some of the side products, if it reacts in the sampling container versus real-time sampling,
Mm-hmm.
which has those detection limit issues as well. Those are my old days.
Yeah, it's also the characterization of it. I mean, there are different levels of hydrogen sulfide. There's a pure hydrogen sulfide that you might get from a benthic deposit from a tidal influence, and then there's a hydrogen sulfide you may get from a wastewater characterization of an influent from the wastewater, where you get more fecal and urine and ammonia related stuff. So when I send samples into a lab like Mike's, I'm looking not just from the odor point of view and the odor strength point of view. I'm looking from the odor characterization point of view. and I'm looking for the hedonic tone aspect of it. I'm looking from the various parameters of it. What's this persistence? In addition to just the single odor strength, because odor strength itself doesn't, just tells you that the odor strength doesn't tell you a lot more than that. And there is so much more to it than just the odor strength.
Mhm.
Well, we have one more point left that I think we should talk about: career opportunities.
I have a career opportunity. I think it's called retirement. No.
I tried that.
Problem, we
I
need
tried that. It doesn't work.
Shoes.
Yeah, it doesn't work for us old 60s.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge. I can't tell you how many people I have trained in the 46 years of doing this, that have come in and gone. They've liked it, they've done it, or moved on. And there's only a few people that have really continued in it. And I think that's going to be a challenge. It is a challenge to excite people about the opportunities that are in our field. I always felt a challenge because I always liked it because it got me out of the office. It got me into the field. So you were doing engineering aspects of things as well as, field aspects of things, and each job was different and unique. Each industry had its own characteristics. Each business, whether it be a landfill, whether it be, pharmaceutical, whether it be petrochemical, whether it be treatment plant, always very interesting, always had different characteristics. And that was the challenge. I don't know if they look at it that way these days.
Well, I think to build on that as well, there's specialty areas too that you could appeal, like the computerization, the modeling, the physical, as you mentioned, getting out and talking to the operator and looking out and trying to solve problems, the control aspects of it, coming up with an innovative, cost-effective approach. So there's so many neat aspects of it, but what do you appeal to the younger generation? What do they want to do? They want to be the AI expert that knows how to take all this information and make it this super model, like the megawatts or whatever type of thing? Or do they want to be like a hands-on person that works with the community and the owner to solve a problem together? Or do they want to be on the control side? So there's so many opportunities to look at, and you just have to appeal to the right staffing as they move forward. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, there are so many, but I mean, that's just,
What is that?
we got to corral them.
Yeah.
Richard, so I have a question. So from your experience over the years, do you see the increase of regulatory asks or requirements or push or whatever we can call it? So more and more regulatory things are introduced, or what's your opinion? What's your kind of observation?
I haven't seen an awful lot of movement on the regulatory aspect. The EPA, got rid of it. They made the decision as they did the Clean Air Act back in the 70s that this was we're in the business of regulating health. We're not
Okay,
in the
EPA
business
is
of
one
regulating
example.
nuisance.
Okay.
Although, Susan will be the first one to say, but there's a correlation between them.
Well, you got to be in San Francisco
Yeah,
or California, then it's different. They don't care about the EPA.
But
and they
do we have examples that it became a more and more regulated issue? Because if it's not regulated, then okay, that's
Well,
a very
I do see that there are
Yes,
some
Susan.
states within the U.S. that are taking that mantle and starting to identify and do more with odor regulations, but that there's not a great movement on it that I see anyway.
Susan?
yes, Susan.
You're on mute, Susan.
Yeah, Susan.
You're still on
Yeah,
mute.
I think you're muted. No, muted.
There we are.
I'm sorry. I think it's legal issues because I guess that's what I've been mostly involved in with landfills. They could be within the realm of regulations. I've mostly been involved in hog farms in the last 10, 15 years and
Okay.
in North Carolina. And I can tell you that the legal system has done a real trip on the hog farms. We're talking millions and millions of dollars in damages. If you want to look up North Carolina and legal proceedings, you will see that the settlements have been huge, even though they're within the realm of what's considered within the regulatory.
Oh, okay, so that's increasing, but do we see the rise of new instrumentation to do this detection things? What do we see? Rise of new instrumentation or nothing rising?
Well, I think instrumentation is crucial. Okay, I mean.
No, is it rising, Susan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the mass spec technologies are examples of that.
I mean,
In the Bay Area, we did an attribution study
yeah.
for the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, where we looked at a land farm, a wastewater treatment plant, and a composting facility, and we're trying to figure out the odor contribution to that community that was being impacted. And then from that, the regulatory agency was going to reduce it. So they tried all sorts of different analytical methods to point the finger at point A on that vector. What are they smelling? 30% from the landfill, 60% from the wastewater plant, 5% from the composting, and they moved a different vector and it changes. So they were doing real-time sampling as well as moving it forward to come up with an attribution study, which no one has done. I don't think and this is with a different company, but that study is out there and it's something we should be aware of because that's going to be happening more and more.
So as an outcome of this workshop or 24/7 marathon, do we see some of the action items is to increase awareness of the new analytical tools that people can use? Because I wish we read and we tell to those users, hey, mass spec, save 50K, go buy it, or 25K, whatever. So they are not aware of that. So,
yes, and I think that people who are in environmental law are unaware of what's available. Okay, and so that is the area where I think there's potential for growth.
So maybe we can volunteer to go to identify these gatherings that they have, because they get to their own conferences, and just to show them what is 21st century solution is, or 2025.
Yeah, for example, I was recently involved in one that actually Mike, I think you were involved in that one too, Mike, is that they didn't understand that there could be drones that could detect where methane was coming off the landfill.
Yeah.
Right? Or they didn't understand that you could take samples on the landfill to see whether there were leaks at certain positions with an olfactometer. They aren't aware of the equipment that's available, and so I think that is a
right. And for guys, for the new generation of citizens on this planet, okay, scientists, entrepreneurs, whatever, having business as a service, for example, if there is a big need to sniff these odors, maybe somebody smokes some other stuff, because there are many examples of people hating those smokes, right? From whatever. So if there is some kind of a service that new companies can create, and they're operated by this new next generation scientists or business people, I think that's possible an opportunity for them. They can make a lot of.
Let's have Bill chime in on this as a last comment, and then I think we're coming to the end.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm from local government. I work for the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment. We're looking at improving our odor regulations. We're one of the only cities that has a pretty significant odor regulation program, as some who've been on this conference have heard me talk, and also Priyanka talk about earlier. But I believe actually the big gap is not the technology. I mean, I know you're all technical experts and you get really into the weeds on how to measure odor and what are the odor thresholds for detection and how to do the mass spec. All of that is valuable, but what the huge gap is in the US is policy. I mean, we can measure all the odor we want. We don't have anything in our government structures at the local level, particularly, to do anything with that data. We can't bring that to a wastewater treatment facility today. We can't bring that to some of our largest odor generators in cities today. And I'm not just talking about Denver, I'm just talking about nationwide. From the research I've done, outside of, say, California and some special examples, there's actually very little local government control and policy on odor that allows you to use this data in any way to improve the odor source. I mean, outside of citizen lawsuits, and some really like big issues where somebody finally finds enough evidence to dig in, and usually that as evidence is complaints. I see our big gap as really the policy side. I think Mr. Pope said it correctly. He was like, the EPA decided in the 70s, this isn't our topic. And from there on, you know, we've kind of really largely not had certainly a consistent way we regulate odor nationally. And I see it so clearly when I hear international presentations. We might have standards, we might have measurement methods, but we don't really have any regulations consistently across the U.S. to use as a model in local government, particularly to make a difference at these sources.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, that's what
Great
I was.
point.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bill.
And can I quickly expand that to just say part of that is policy, not just regulation, because that's the thing that I've been really trying to push. Because of course, with the nasal ranger and its use in the U.S., there's always organizations, counties, cities talking about, oh, limit of 7, limit of an 8. Choose what you want, but if that's all you do is put a limit, you almost cause more trouble than you're helping, because then it's now what? That's kind of the phrase I give. Now what? And
now
that's
what?
Right. The policy has to be built throughout the U.S. of then what? What are steps? What are the tools to do it back, right? What are the bucket of tools? Because there's many different tools to choose for different industries, for different applications. And I think that's something that I've started to push hard in the US, that it's not just about the regulatory limit. And I think there seems to be too much conversation about what's the limit. And once you got that, now what?
Now what?
Yeah, I use that too. And then we also build a community limit. What is the community level that they respond to? And it's probably usually well below the regulatory limit of one.
Right.
And so, and that's what we always do when we have odor complaints. They don't have nuisance laws, or they do have a set standard of, say, something at the fence line. We go beyond that to say, well, that works, you're in compliance, so you're not going to get sued. But the community wants you to be operating at this lower level, and therefore you need to control your strategies to this level to meet the community standard versus the regulatory standard.
Great conversation. We need to talk more about as we move forward.
Carlos to
together in May.
The next 24 hours. Come on.
I'm waiting for Carlos to jump in on E and T.
Oh, I see him on my camera again.
Where is he when you need him? Come on.
I'm gonna turn my camera off so he comes on.
Yeah. Great. Carlos, are you there? Do you want to close us out? Because I think we have come to the end of the 24 hours. But yeah, this has been, I think, just like so interesting, this conversation being, you know, exactly the opposite of what's going on in South America, where they're just implementing all these regulations and policies and trying to comply with them. So it's interesting to see both sides of this. But yeah, thank you so much. I think this is a great event. Hopefully Carlos will join us.
So where's that lemon? You can turn it over to Carlos. Then.
Oh.
Turn up the time.
No. During my I put my lemon away.
I was going to make lemonade earlier as like a joke at the end, but I ran out of time.
It would be perfect.
I did find a mini lemon.
I had a community member complain about pina coladas. So if you're making lemonade, they might complain about that lemon smell.
Yeah, I better be careful.
All right.
Thank you guys so much. Very, very productive.
Awesome.
Thank you. We learned a lot. Thank you.